Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypnocoaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you want to know more about my professional work, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today, I want to start by acknowledging, using a video footnote, my intellectual debt on the subject of changing habits to a really fantastic book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's a great book that discusses habit formation, the role habit plays in human functioning, and the science behind habit change. My work is medical hypnotism, which is defined as scientifically based hypnotism related to issues of health and well-being. Science is important to me, and the volume covers the science and neurology of habit, which is why it's such a great read. Highly recommend it. Now, most of us want to be better versions of ourselves. To do that, we often want to change our behavior. The mistake we make is thinking we can do that by willpower, and that people who fail to change their behavior fail to change because of a failure in their willpower. The findings of science is that is not true. We can't usually change our behavior by willpower alone. Instead, we have to take control of our habits. Now, habit formation is a facility in our nervous system created by evolution that we can't extinguish by trying to do so. Instead, we have to roll with it and learn to use it to our advantage. A 2006 study cited in the book at Duke University found that 40% of all human actions are actually based not on decision making, not on conscious thought, but on habit. And this shouldn't come as a great surprise. After all, our neurological system is incredibly complicated, and it needs to have some way of organizing that complexity. It's been estimated, I think it was Dr. Herbert Benson who wrote that famous book called The Relaxation Response some years back. I think he estimated that if you had a sheet of typing paper in your hand for every possible interconnection of the nerves in your nervous system, you would have a stack of typing paper something like 9 light years high. The body has to organize that complexity, and it does that by neurological programming called kindling. Nerve cells that you use a lot to do frequently thought behaviors, frequently felt feelings, experience frequently thought thoughts, pick up and hold a slight neurological charge, and they fire more readily than nerve cells, even nerve cells right alongside, that lack that charge. Therefore, habit becomes programmed into our nervous system, and it becomes easier to think those thoughts, feel those feelings, do those behaviors. And this is necessary. We can't possibly think our way through everything in life. I don't want to make a decision every morning about which side of my face to start shaving on. Once upon a time I did, but that behavior has become so automatic, I don't think about it. I just do it. The behavior is triggered, I pick up my razor, and I do it. In fact, just thinking about this, I had to kind of pause and imagine myself standing in front of my mirror, holding my razor, and I discovered that I start shaving on the right side of my face as opposed to the left side. even though it's a behavior I do every day at least once. Every time you stand upright and walk, you execute a habit that is so basic to walking, you've consciously forgotten what it is. But until you learned it as an infant, you kept falling. In order to stand upright and to walk, you have to habitually lock your knees. And until you learn that, you fell down. This is true of all habit formation. It's something we may choose or discover, but we do it so often it becomes an automatic program of thought, feeling, or behavior, a habit. And most of what we do is based upon that. Now, there are three parts to a habit. The first part is called the cue, or the thing that triggers the habit to run. The second part is the routine. This is the program that runs. I pick up my razor in my right hand, I look at my mirror, I turn my head to the left, and so on. And the third part is the reward, which is the payoff for the habit, a really nice clean shave in my case. Eventually, the expectation of that reward creates a craving, the anticipation of the reward that makes it more likely you'll put yourself in situations that trigger that cue. Habits never completely disappear. They become encoded in the brain. That's why an addict in recovery has to keep on recovering, because those old programs still want to run, and the brain can't tell good habits from bad. So you have to use your mind to make that determination and to take charge of your habituation process. First, to create new positive habits, you think through the process of cue, routine, and reward. And you decide what the reward will be. And it needs to be something substantial enough that can eventually create a craving for that reward. I'm a martial artist. I'm a multiple black belt. I motivated myself to become a martial artist because I wanted to be someone who would never fear being bullied. As a young child, I was bullied, and enjoying the feeling that I can handle myself in any situation where someone gets aggressive is enough of a reward that I came to crave that feeling. And so I did the things I needed to do to get there. I enrolled in a martial artist school. I put on my uniform, which itself was a cue to change my thinking. I did the exercises and techniques and so on. So the cue was feeling threat. The routine was learning to be a martial artist, and the reward is the feeling of confidence that I can handle myself. And in that process, there were other habits that I acquired moving toward that goal. If you can't think of a reward sufficient to create a craving, then you probably can't program that new habit into your nervous system. But if you can, then you figure out a routine that will get you to that reward and find a cue that will get triggered periodically so that there's reinforcement. I live a clutter-free life. I wasn't always that way. I taught myself the habit of decluttering. The reward is the feeling of freedom I have when I realize I'm not tied down by a whole lot of extraneous stuff. I'm not moving it around. I don't have to walk around it. I'm not maintaining it. It just isn't an issue. That's a big reward. The cue is seeing something out where it doesn't belong. And the routine is to be sure that everything in my world has a place and to put things back in their place instead of putting them down. As I often say to my clients who are working with issues of clutter, don't put things down, put them away. So that's new habits. Now, what about bad habits that we want to change? Well, we usually can't change the cue because that's likely something that's common in our environment. And we usually can't change the reward as the craving's already established in our neurological system, but we can change the routine we use to get to the reward, and that's what you do. As an example, take someone who's addicted. There is a cue to use the addictive substance, usually some form of stress. There is the routine of consuming that substance and then the reward, the feeling of being free from the stress, at least immediately. Therefore, the goal isn't to avoid all stress. You can't do that. The only person who's stress-free is someone who's dead. And the reward of feeling relief from stress is still a good goal. What has to change is the routine used to get there. Instead of reaching for a drug, you reach for a journal to write stuff down, or you reach out to a supportive person, or you distract yourself with something that is both healthy and enjoyable. You still get to the reward, but without the harmful routine. So that is how you master the habit formation process. Give it a try. I predict it will soon become a positive habit. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It really helps me a lot if you'll let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. If I can be of help to you personally, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or Patreon channel. Stay well and stay safe.